If you want to become a better Fortnite player without wasting hundreds of hours watching random guides, this is the only video you need. Over the next 2 hours, I'm going to walk you through basically everything in Fortnite. We'll cover every major mechanic, every defensive situation, and 90% of the awareness and game sense you'll ever need to consistently improve. No filler, no clickbait, no repeating the same tips you've heard 100 times. Just the information that actually helps you improve at the game. Whether you're trying to hit Unreal, dominate ranked, or simply become a smarter and more consistent player, or even trying to go pro, this video is built to give you a complete foundation from start to finish. But before we dive in, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future Fortnite guides. Also, if you'd like to support me, use code FLOWSTIDE in the Fortnite item shop. It really helps support the channel. Now, grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's jump into everything you need to know to become a better Fortnite player. All right, so the first little part of this is I wanted to start by going over like some basic stuff that you need to know in order to do the rest of the stuff in this video, or just to help you overall with fighting. Now, the first thing you all should know how to do is just regular 90s. If you can't do regular 90s, the rest of the video is going to be pretty hard to learn, but you can just take it step by step. All you do for 90s is you just place a floor, stair, and a wall, and you just turn to the side. When you're first starting out, you can even add jumps if you want to. Another way to do this is quick 90s, which are just sprint 90s. So all you have to do is you place a floor and a stair, you sprint into the corner, place another floor, stair, sprint, floor, and you just repeat that. That's for really fast height. You can use that off starts of 1v1s and everything like that. You can even use it in game, but it's not as protective and it just isn't as good overall. The next thing we're going to learn is edits. What edits you should be utilizing and what things you should not be utilizing. So a lot of people know to do peanut butter edits like that, over the top edits like that. You can even do this edit where it's that, this edit, and this edit. So, and then obviously windows. So those are basically all the edits you will be utilizing in your wall. Once again, every edit needs to be unpredictable, because if every edit is predictable, they'll just know when to shoot you and how to shoot you every single time someone plays against you. So what I recommend is, I see a lot of people do this. They just do the same right hand peek peanut butter over and over again without changing it up in a fight. So when you're in a fight, you'll want to edit that, and then the next one, maybe you'll want to edit a window. At another window, or even doing a left hand like this, or even editing up like this and shooting and re-editing. You want to be unpredictable with your edits, because edits are very important with how your games will play out. If you're using predictable edits, once again, you'll just be predictable. Everyone can kill a predictable player. That's the easiest thing to fight in a fight. All right, the next thing is like peaks. So with the edits we just did, there's multiple peaks you can do to gain advantage. I personally use this one. It's really good. You can use it, shoot real quick, and edit it back. Yes, you're open, you can take damage, but not a lot of players use it, and it can be really good, especially if you like a cone in their box or stuff like this, because you can just do like that. Another one is a right hand peek peanut butter, so something like this. For example, if an opponent is in this box right here and you have them boxed, right hand peek, they can barely see you, while you can see almost the whole thing and all of their body. You can use left hands too. The only reason I don't recommend left hands is if, for example, if the person is in that corner right there. If they're in that corner, they can see you, but you can't see them. So they have the right hand peek advantage there. But you can use this peek for like basically anything else. It does leave you pretty wide open, and I would recommend not doing it. You can also do this peek, but once again, they can hide behind the cone and it leaves you kind of out in the open. Not the best peek to use. If you just need that final little damage and you're willing to risk taking some damage, then once again, you can use it. There are other like special ways you can do peaks. So for example, you can do like this peak. There's like a bunch of others. You can edit this full sidewall right here like that. There's just a bunch of other things you can do that are really complicated, but they can give you crazy advantages on people. Another thing I've seen a lot of people commenting on my video is retakes. So I just do simple retakes. I don't do anything crazy. I've just been using the same retakes for the past couple years. The nice thing about retakes is when you know 3 of them, you basically have 9 different combinations of stuff you can do. But once again, you can do them at any time, anywhere. So there's a bunch of different combinations you can do. My personal favorite retakes are just a simple double edit with cone to the top. Then you can put your stuff like this, edit this up, and go like that. It's just a simple double edit. You get height pretty quick. You can change layers pretty quick. It's pretty good. The next one I like to do is just a simple wall ramp edit. This one's protective because it'll protect you from everything basically except for this side. And you can just do it over and over again without any problems. You can also do it like I was just doing there, where you have it just go over the top like this. and you can do this. But we'll get more into that later. That's another peek you can use. So like, for example, I'm going to just do it slow so you guys can keep up, is if you wanted to do this, edit this, like there's multiple different types of retakes you can do. I just added 2 retakes together into one, and it made it way hard to predict. And then the third retake I like to do is just a simple side jump. So you fake the double edit, you jump to the side, you place 2 high walls, and then if the person's 2 layers above you, you just full box them. But let's say you're just doing it as a retake, you just do it, you just go like this, edit, 2 high walls, jump, and there you go. You can just edit off of that and do that. Once again, you can combine all 3 of these retakes together. They're pretty easy to do, and combining them is not hard whatsoever. You have multiple different combinations with this and stuff like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to go over is crosshair placement, because you won't be able to do basically any of this stuff that I just showed you without good crosshair placement. That is the #1 thing I see people do wrong in this game. Crosshair placement is doing the most minimal amount of movement to get the most out of an edit. So as you guys can see, there's these like the little gray in the corners of each of these squares. Basically, you want to stay on all those little corners and do this little bit of movement for the entire edit. For example, for up here, you'll just need to grab the far right side of this corner, drag it into the far left of this corner, and you get the full edit for barely any movement. Most players will go fully across like that, and then they have to reline up their crosshair in the middle, which makes way harder to actually shoot players if they're right here. If you are on edit on release, once again, you have to release the edit before you can put your crosshair back here, or you'll mess up your edit. But if you have edit on release off, you can actually hold the angle, like say I can hold it and it'll go like this as I have my crosshair on the opponent. So edit on release off is better for peaks in my opinion. Edit on release on is better for editing and speed, and just, yeah, that's the difference between the two basically. It does actually add an extra key movement, so you have to press a key twice instead of once to edit. It can cause a lot more delay, so if you guys have problems with delay, just have edit on release on. So now that we got crosshair placement out the way, there's another thing most of you guys do not utilize when you're in fights or tournaments or endgames or anything. And this one works really well when you have teammates. It's pre-edits. Most of you guys have pre-edits off. If you have it off, it actually makes more delay go on your like either console, PC, whatever, and it will make you mess up your edits a lot more. So most of the time people can't do a full triple edit because they have it on to where you can't have pre-edits. So if you turn pre-edits off, you'll actually have less delay. And the nice thing about pre-edits is, for example, if we're trying to key a team because we need surge in the end game, this is just a hypothetical thing, and we need damage. If you pre-edit a wall like this and your teammates spray and you place the wall, the other team is going to expect a fully built wall. But since you don't have a fully built wall, they won't be prepared for that, and you guys can get as much damage as possible and then just re-edit it. It's really good for doing unpredictable things. It can work or pre-edit windows. Most players won't expect that. So you can be doing something like a double edit up, and then you do this, and it's a free shot. There's a lot of different things you can utilize with pre-edits. Yes, it gets confusing at first, and yes, you will mess up your edits at first when you have pre-edits on, but after you get used to it for a bit, it's a lot better. All right, the next thing we're gonna go over are some phases. And now I know a lot of you guys know just the common stair phase, where you get the wall 1 HP, you jump, and you momentum phase through the wall because the stair boosts you into the box, and you can get through almost every single time if you time it correctly, which another big thing about most of these things is timing correctly. So yeah, there's that phase. Another phase a lot of people don't know about is a kind of a door phase. So you edit a door like this, and it'll boost you through. This one's actually better in my opinion, because if you don't have the best timing and you walk into the wall and you break it, it'll push you through no matter what. They might be able to predict it a little bit better, but I don't see this phase used a lot, and I personally used it and it's really good. And you can get in, once again, you can jump with it and they'll boost you far back into their face. So that's another phase you can use. Another phase you can use from like the top of someone's box is, for example, if they have a cone right here, you break it and you have your stair like this, the floor and stair meet, and you can just break down and it'll automatically push you in. You can place a cone, get damage, and get out. Another one you can do, which is a lot more risky, but if you just need that final damage, is actually just getting inside of a cone, pushing into the top, like pushing into the top corner, any one of the corners, and just break down, and you'll automatically get phased in. There are some other phases, but those are the main phases you should be utilizing when you're in fights and stuff like that. And I wouldn't recommend using any other phases for this type of stuff. All right, so now we're gonna go more into fighting stuff, like box fights and how you should be setting up box fights and how you should actually be taking them. So for box fights, most of the time, people key a box straight up, like this. You don't wanna be keying a box straight up unless the player's low or you actually know what you're doing and can actually escape. Another thing with keying on box fights, as you can see, this whole area behind me, I am visible to anyone in this area. So you're not actually taking protective box fights. You're taking box fights very riskily because, I don't even know if that's a word, but you're taking box fights really risky because they can just shoot you from anywhere. And so what I recommend is doing diagonal box fighting. Diagonal box fighting, you box up, you have a diagonal box like this, can create space like this, take the wall, right hand peek, obviously, pump them, and whatnot. Now, diagonal box fighting is a lot better. You're not fighting directly on someone, which makes it harder for, if like the player's trying to heal, it makes it harder for them. You also have two sides you can go to and attack from, because a lot of you guys will just attack from one side at the whole time, and it'll be unprotected box fights. So you'll either get damaged, or when you do try and get in their box, they just can hold the angles. But if you attack from two sides and you fake and then you get it right here and you just edit and shoot them, they're not going to be expecting you to take from two sides. You can even go from, like, let's say you go from one side, two sides, jump up, take this. They think you're going to edit this and go down, but then you drop down to the side and you do stuff like that. It's just making yourself unpredictable in the box fights when most people are very predictable when you take box fights. So I recommend doing diagonal peeking. Also, when you're in diagonal peeking or diagonal box fighting, there's a lot of ways to actually take a player's wall without them dealing damage to you. For example, if you have a box like this right next to them, you can shoot the bottom right corner of their wall without them seeing you with the stair right here, and you can actually just take their wall and shoot them. There's some other ones too, like for example, you can do it like this. Once again, don't do this peek if they're in this back corner, because if you do break the wall, they can just shoot you from that back corner. But yeah, you can do that. You can do this. There's multiple different peeks you can do. There's even this one right here. Makes them harder to shoot from you if they're on this side of the cone. And edit and fire. So those are some things you can do to increase your box fighting skills and stuff like that. Once again, in box fights or any fights whatsoever, you guys are always going to want to be utilizing right hand peeks. They're the most important peek in the game because your camera is to the right of your character, which means you have more view of the opponent in your right side of your screen. So always utilize right hand peeks, peanut butter edits, top edits, anything. Just try and utilize right hand peeks without showing your character as much as possible. Also, a lot of things players do wrong in box fighting is only having one box. For example, if you're healing up, you need to have at least two boxes. If you don't have two boxes while you're healing up, you're just giving the opponent an opportunity to take you out. You need two boxes because if they attack from this side, you can just come to this side and you can create more spaces and more boxes. The main problem I see with most players is they do not create enough space in the game while they're playing, either when they're fighting or taking damage or anything when they need to heal up. They don't have enough space, then they just get locked down instantly. Because if I only have one box, I can get predicted pretty easily. For example, if I don't have a stair or a cone in my box, which I know a lot of players don't when they're fighting or trying to heal up, which you guys need to always have something in your box. Like for example, let's say an opponent's on my wall and they place a stair like this. My only option really is to go out backwards. And that's because I don't have a second box. Now, if I had a second box, I could come out and be safe in the second box. But since I don't have a second box, he can come down from the top. If I edit out from the side, he can full box me like this. It gives them a lot more options if you don't have two boxes built. Another thing is to help you guys predict people make their moves and stuff like that. For example, if someone's in a box like this and you're keying them, and let's just say you're keying them directly on, if you see they have nothing in their box, you can break their wall and actually place a stair and a wall at the exact same time in their face. And when you do that, then they're probably going to go out to the back because the stair is facing backwards. And they know if they go to either side, you can literally just full piece them no matter what. So the best option for them, which is what they think, is to go out the back. But in all honesty, all you have to do is jump up, place a floor and a cone and full box them. Once again, you can do this with anything. It's really easy to predict players. So for example, if someone's like, you're fighting someone up here, let's say they're doing this and you break it and you put a stair and a wall in their box, they could either go out the sides, out the back, or, which a lot of players do when they're above ground, is they drop down. And when they drop down, you have full piece and they can't do anything. So no matter what they do, they're cooked either way if they don't have more than one box. If they have more than one box, it's a lot harder to key someone because they have a lot more angles and space to play off of, which makes it harder to fight. You'll never see a pro only play one box unless they are very confident in what they're doing. Most pros always play two boxes, which you guys need to do as well. All right, another thing that I've been showing recently in my shorts is the Mongrel Classic. Now, I've been getting a lot of comments about people saying, oh, that peak is worse or stuff like that. But realistically, in a regular Mongrel Classic, all you do is break the wall, edit it, edit the stair, and shoot. But if the opponent's not in that corner, or if you edit this way, and they're not in this corner, and they're in that corner, they have the peek on you. Once again, right-hand peeks are so valuable, so they can just shoot you. What I started doing instead of a regular Mongrel Classic, which I don't do every time, because sometimes Mongrel Classics are actually really good if you just need that finishing damage, but if you want to make sure you see the opponent 100% of the time, is you edit this stair sideways, either way. Either way, they're either going to be right here and you can see them, or they're going to be up here, which you can still see them even if they're crouched. So you will want to do that instead. Once again, I did it with the window edit. Yes, this will leave you vulnerable. So there is a bunch of other ways you can do it. You can do it like this, behind a right-hand peak, and other stuff. Just make sure you guys are doing the stair to the side, because that will give you full coverage of the entire box instead of the regular Mongrel Classic where he can just hide in there, or other stuff like that. All right, so the next thing we're gonna actually go into is more of like free building, weaknesses, and stuff like that. So I know a lot of you guys are stuck at like a certain level or a certain mechanic that you can't get past. So I remember when I first started, and I'm not saying this is for only starters, I could barely do a double edit, but I wanted to learn a triple edit. The problem is I can't even do a double edit yet, so I was trying to do a triple edit without even learning how to do a double edit. So what I recommend you guys do is you actually learn the double edit before you learn the triple edit, because if you learn the double edit, then learning the triple edit will be a lot easier. Once again, you guys need to stop trying to go for the insane mechanics right away. If you just barely started the game and you're trying to go for a quad edit already, just stop. Focus on the fundamentals and regular stuff first before moving on to the crazy stuff. So if you're stuck on double edits, learn the double edits. Get repetition down and everything. Once you can do 10 double edits in a row, you can start adding in the triple edits. And once you start doing the triple edits, you can start doing the quad edits. I'm still not the best at quad edits, but I am working on them right now. So make sure you guys focus on one thing at a time. Utilize that repetition. Once you get repetition down, the more consistent you are with one mechanic, the better you'll be overall, and it'll become second nature. In the middle of games, I'll do triple edit, quad edits, anything, and just because it's in my toolbox. Another thing you guys need to be doing is learning how to tarp. So there are 3 different tarps that I use when I'm in endgames. The regular tarp, where you just place in front of you and to the side of you, the walls. There's stuff like that, right? Another one is for like changing layers. It's where you put the stair walls around you, stuff like that. And then you can do that downwards as well. In chapter 2, I used to utilize this one a lot. Now this one you'll want to use when you're on like low materials, or it's just like a quick moving zone and you just need to get somewhere super close fast. It technically protects you from everything. The only disadvantage of it is it only has 1 layer to protect you from. So if they spray from this side, it only takes 1 layer to shoot you from. But once again, if you're low on materials and you need something to tarp easy, just do this. Also, when tarping, make sure you always place a wall behind you. If you don't place a wall behind you, someone could easily sneak up behind you and just one pump you. So make sure you always place a wall behind you at some point in your tarp. Yeah. So those are mostly the tarps that you need to learn. They're pretty easy to do. You just need to, once again, do them repetition over time, and you can utilize those tarps. All right, so another thing I get asked a lot, which kind of goes with what I just did, the tarping, is like when to use certain materials. I had someone ask a very good question the other day, is what zones do I use what materials? And now I'm going to be honest, it doesn't matter what type of zone you're in, you'll always want to use materials for different things. When you're doing quick rotates, you'll want to use wood. When you're boxing up, you'll want to use brick or metal. Once again, when you're boxing up, do 2 boxes. If you're in trios, do 2 to 3 boxes. And when you're in the final moving zones, you'll want to only use brick and metal as much as possible. Wood is just for build fighting, and basically use wood as much as possible because there's a lot of wood on the map. And yeah, you don't really need to use certain materials for certain things, except for when boxing up, brick and metal. When rotating fast, use wood. If you need like temporary boxes, once again, you can use wood. It's a lot more risky, so I still recommend using brick for temporary boxes. But yeah, that's what I recommend. Also, another thing we're gonna go over is how to apply correct pressure. A lot of you guys are in the middle of fights, and I've seen this all over. Like, I've seen this on YouTube, TikTok, everything. People do not know how to pressure correctly. A lot of people, when they get someone really low, they just keep pressuring from the same angle once again, and they just keep spraying and just hope that they'll get into the person's box and kill them. That's very risky, first of all, because if you get in a box with them, it's a 50-50, even if you have health advantage, because you never know, they could one pump you or do a lot of damage to you and then kill you with an SMG or something like that. So, but you also don't want them to heal. So what I recommend is just, honestly, you want to take distance, because distance fighting will make it so they can't do as much damage to you. And they still have to heal and run away. So if you just do distance fighting like this and try and take walls, or like just spray them to the point where you can just take a wall and then take a close fight, that's what you want to do. Because a lot of you guys just full on pressure them, just spray, try and get their box, and a lot of you guys take a lot of damage. I tell everyone that I've ever coached or played with, the goal of a fight is to win without taking any damage. Because if you win a fight and you take no damage, you can go right into another fight. And if you take no damage, third parties aren't as like annoying to deal with if you have your max health. That's why when you see pros fight super quick, they'll only fight for about a good 30-40 seconds and they'll kill the team. You'll see most pros come out on top with most health. They get a lot of fights done really quick. That's their main thing. Then they come out of the fights with a lot of health, which means the third parties that do third party do not have a big advantage. It's more of a fair fight. So remember, take fights, but if you do not win the fight quick, or if you're taking a lot of damage from the fight, you can disengage and re-engage. All right, now one of the things we're gonna actually talk about is movement, because I talk a lot and very heavily on movement. Movement is the best thing to basically make yourself unpredictable besides edits. Now for movement, there's a lot of different things, like the side jumps. There's like the one where you do super boost, and then there's just a regular side jump. So make sure you guys can do both. The way to do a super side jump is you just look at the thing when you're jumping and just jump. How to do a regular, you just look and jump. It's not that hard. There is certain things you can do for movement. For example, I call this controller movement because all my controller friends do it. For example, if I full box someone, they can just like start spamming like crouching and like sprinting and other stuff like that, and it makes it a lot harder to hit them because they're constantly moving, and it messes up with my regular crosshair placement. Because if I'm usually aiming right here, but they're moving around down here, then I have to follow them like this, and it makes it really hard. It's really broken. You can use that controller movement to like get out a lot of bad things. Like for example, if I get full box, I can just like start spamming stuff, jump through here, try and take fights, and hopefully get out and fight differently. There are some other things, like I did see a bunch of people use movement like that, or like jump off the side like that to get crazy peaks. All you do for that is press the second jump, you look this way, and that's all you have to do. Another thing a lot of people don't utilize, which controller players oddly enough utilize way too much, is mantling. There's regular mantling, where you just do that, and I'm pretty sure like you can do that. You just need to be utilizing movement, because this can get you hyped pretty easily, and a lot of players don't expect you to just double jump up their wall and get up. There's also other like editing things you can do, like to run up and stuff like that. So just try and like mess around with your movement and see what feels good, but like feels unpredictable for other opponents. Think about it like this: if you're confusing yourself with what you're doing, you're probably going to confuse the opponent, unless they're very bad, because bad players usually are the most unpredictable because they don't know what they're doing. So yeah, remember to utilize movement. The next thing we're going to get into is gun mechanics. There's nothing really I can show you with gun mechanics because they're gun mechanics. But what I recommend doing is making sure you know how to use every single gun in the game. A lot of players find one loadout they really like, and that's really good because they're utilizing the guns in the game, but you need to know every single gun and its ability. For example, the Spire rifle in the game is the best gun in the game in my opinion. It does a lot of damage, it has a very good magazine, and the spray rate is pretty good. It does a lot of structure damage, everything. The nice thing about the Centennial Pump Shotgun or the Sentinel Pump Shotgun is it does a lot of structure damage, and it still does good damage. It has a pretty good fire rate. The pump does not have a good structure damage, but it still does good damage. You just need to know those mechanics of the guns. Like the Furry Assault Rifle, it shoots really fast. It does better damage close range, has a faster fire rate. Just know the gun mechanics of every gun in the game. By knowing that, you know how to use the gun if you can't find the guns you prioritize. And knowing how to play with every single gun in the game is very important when it comes to, once again, not finding your weapon. All right, I know I'm kind of all over the place with this video, but I'm trying to get everything that you guys should know about Fortnite and its mechanics and stuff like that. So once again, a little bit with more movement, crouch spamming when fighting or taking builds or anything. Just, you don't want to stay in the same place when you're attacking a wall once again, so just like be unpredictable with your movement and stuff like that. Crouching, sliding, even take builds when you're sliding in, like you take a build right here and you just slide in while breaking the wall. Another thing you guys need to learn is sound cues and stuff like that. You guys should be studying sound cues. Every game has sound cues. Like Rainbow Six Siege has sound cues, Valorant, all these games have sound cues. Mastering sound cues is one of the most important things because you know when a player is reloading, you know when a player is using movement, you know when a player is running around you, where they're running around you from, if they're above you, below you. You can also like mimic sound cues without actually doing anything. So you can like, for example, right there, you can fake a break sound by pulling out your like shotgun or something really quick, and you can fake this like pickaxe swing sound. There's a lot of different things you can do to like mimic sound cues and make it a lot harder for players to like predict you or anything through those sound cues. You can also use it as an advantage. Like for example, if you need to heal up, you can use minis as an advantage because you can press the mini to act like you're healing up. For example, if I'm acting like I'm healing up in here, I do this to a lot of people. You fake like you're healing, and as soon as they push you, you get damage on them, then they need to go heal. So you both have time to heal now because they have to reset and reevaluate the fight. That's another good thing. Another thing we need to talk about is pre-piece. We did talk about pre-piece a little bit when we were showing you about box fighting, but pre-piecing basically, it can mean like doing this and having the opponent walk into your box or like full boxing them like that. That can deal with pre-piece. Pre-piece can even be like this. If you're in a box and let's say you edit out to go fight, and then you notice that the opponent goes back down and they're either in your box or near your box, you can drop down, edit down, and open it up. And sometimes they won't realize that this isn't their wall, and so you'll get a free tag or a free kill even with that. So make sure you guys know how to do that. Another thing that kind of goes with the peeking off of the mini is applying pressure when you're either low or when someone is pressuring you. A lot of players, when they're getting pressured, they just try and box up, hold walls, heal, anything like that. They don't create space, nothing like that. Once again, you'll want to create space always, but they'll just hold. Another way to combat that is by editing and getting damage back, because when you're low and they're spraying you, they're not going to expect you to peek and get some extra tags. Even if it's just 60 damage, then you can come back down and heal up. It'll give you more time. If you have a trio, have your teammates shoot at them while you heal. It's just applying pressure back. It makes it a lot harder to fight instead of just getting absolutely destroyed by someone just spraying the living crap out of you. Another thing I recommend doing is for scrims or like endgames or anything like that. If you're boxed up and you're getting sprayed or lobbied, remember to create space in the direction that the players are spraying you from. So like that, and then you can even go backwards too. When you're getting sprayed, the main goal is to stay alive and take the least amount of damage as possible. So you need to create as much space as possible out of your hard materials. For example, if you're boxed up out of wood and you're getting sprayed, they're going to bleed through. Their bolts are going to bleed through really quick. So you can come back, edit out, change your materials, and create space. If you need to, you can create space towards them to give you a little extra time to create the space backwards. And then once again, you can utilize this space. Another thing you guys need to learn is opponents' play styles. I've always talked about this, is learning your opponent in the first 1 to 2 seconds of the fight is very important because it tells you a lot about them. So if a player is pushing you really fast, editing a lot, spamming edits, trying to apply as much pressure as possible, something like this, they look like that when they're trying to push you, they're most likely a super aggressive player. The best way to counter a super aggressive player is by playing extremely passive or also playing overly aggressive. So you need to identify their playstyle based off that. If you start shooting at someone and you don't even hit them, but they full box and they take 2 boxes, they most likely want to take close fights, or they are more of a passive player. They can be a passive aggressive player, which means as soon as you key up, they're going to kill you or like shoot at you and then be super aggressive. So yeah, you just need to know what their playstyle looks like based off of the first 10 seconds of your interaction with them. Now, if you know the players a lot better than you, the best way to get out of that situation is to get a good amount of opening damage, which is what most pros do. Opening damage is the most important thing because it puts you at the advantage at the very start of the game. If you can't get opening damage and they're really aggressive and you're really scared of them, which I recommend don't being scared of anyone, just be confident in yourself, then you'll want to try and utilize movement to run away, or you can try and take fights in your strong suit. So if you're really good at box fighting but you're really bad at build fighting, only take fights on your terms in the box fights. This puts them at a disadvantage because you never know if they're really good at build fighting or box fighting, and if you take them from your best skill, you're gonna have the advantage against them. All right, now that I showed you a bunch about like how to play and what special stuff you need to be utilizing and stuff like that, I'm gonna actually show you the best things to get better at every single one of those. I'm in the Mechanics of E5 training map by Raider 464. You've probably been in this map, or you've probably seen people play in this map. So we talked about crosshair placement at the very beginning of the video. This is perfect for crosshair placement because you edit, it moves, and you follow the arrow or the red marks in order to get the perfect crosshair placement. As you can see, if you follow the exact red line, perfect crosshair placement, no mistakes. This is what I would recommend doing if you have problems with your crosshair placement, because it helps with that. Now, there are other things, like for example, there's fast edit timing drills. Edit timing is another very important thing, because the better you get with edit timing, the better you get with almost everything. Anyways, you can do those. That's what I do for edit timing. If you need to work on specific things, walls, quad edits, just insanely different mechanics, there's all these things here to help you out. I recommend going through them a lot. The main thing I use in here though is, once again, that crosshair placement drill, because it's the best thing, in my opinion, in this map. Now, the next thing that you guys are going to want to do is do piece. Piece control, this is just to help you with piece control, pre-piece, your mechanics, learning how to take different fights, different angles, and it's pretty realistic, so I recommend going through most of these drills. Figure out the drills that you need help with the most. So if you're really bad at, for example, this drill, because you have to go over a wall and stuff like that, practice this drill. But if you're really good with this drill, find something that you're not really good with. The main priority in getting better is focusing on your weaknesses to get them better. The things that you suck at the most are the things you're going to want to do the most with the most repetition and most consistency. But remember, do not only focus on your weaknesses. You also need to put a little bit more time into your strengths. So what I recommend is spending majority of your time on your weaknesses and then spending like 30% on your strengths, just so your strengths stay as good as they are and your weaknesses get better slowly. So I recommend trying all these out and figuring out which ones you suck at the most, doing them so that you can get your pre-piece and piece better. Now, the thing that I suck the most with is aim. Now, the thing that I suck the most with is actually aim. Aim is very important because if you have the best aim in the game, you can basically kill anyone before they even can build with reaction times, if you get a good spray. So all of these are good. Once again, find your weakness through here. Do every single drill. You don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do them. You can spread them out throughout days. You can build your own routines based on your weaknesses. That's what I recommend doing. And figure out which ones you're the worst at. Do them over and over and over again. And over time, you'll see improvement. Now here, there's a bunch of great stuff. There is phasing practice, peak training, clutch practice, piece free build, pre-fire practice, piece control tunnels, headshot box fights, and edit training. Basically, everything I went over at the beginning of the video is already is already in this map for you to help you prioritize the best things. These are basically everything you need to know on how to improve the game, basically instantly. So utilizing the tactics that I showed you earlier in the video by practicing them through this will help you get better at the game. Now, once again, all of this is basically useless if you do not actually play the actual game and get game awareness and stuff like that. I would show you a lot more on game awareness, but game awareness is mostly built on how much you play the game, how competitive you play the game, and how much you challenge your brain through the game. It's like through moving zones, all of that stuff. You basically train it by working hard and challenging yourself in the game. So that's basically all you got to do. Now, there are a lot of other things that you can do in the game and a lot of other mechanics and stuff that I haven't gone over, but that is because these are the necessary type of things you need for fighting, editing, just improving overall in the game. If you can't use all of these things in the game, you're not going to improve fast and you're going to just be stuck at the same skill level. And by utilizing most of these things, I guarantee you most of you guys will absolutely get insane, because I know for a fact most of you don't know how to do half of the stuff I showed at the beginning of the video. So for example, if you're running out in the open, just in games, scrims, whatnot, and you get beamed, the first thing you'll want to do, and this is obvious, is boxing up. Now, actually, a lot of players box up and they don't actually put cones in their box. That is one of the biggest issues you can do. Now, you'll either want to place a cone or you will want to place a stair. The only inconvenience about a stair is you can edit back, to the side, and up. But if you have a cone, you can edit out all 4 sides and edit up. Now, once again, if you're up on a higher area, for example, like this, with a cone, you can edit down, out all the sides, and up pretty quick. Yes, it takes more editing to edit up, but it's honestly simpler to edit down as well than it would be to use a stair. And a lot of you guys know that. So if you're getting pressured, especially from one side, most people only build one box, and usually they build it out of wood. Now, if you only have wood, that is fine. But in this scenario, if you get hit at all, or you just want to box up, you're going to want to box up out of brick or metal, preferably brick in this scenario, because you don't want to waste metal until the end of the match. Whenever you get shot at, you will want to build 2 boxes. That way, that if you do need a heal, you can sit in one box while they pressure the other box, and you also have 2 boxes to move around in, which makes it a lot harder for them to pressure you. Now, the thing about these 2 walls is, if, for example, if someone's coming from this side right here, they're going to have to spray through this wall, grab this wall, come in, and then grab this wall too. A lot of people that are super aggressive will just attack through that way. And when they do attack through that way, you have the box around them. So that way they can only get out that one way, which in a realistic scenario, you can just edit up the top and you can just go like this. Now, this is applying pressure from a defensive standpoint, if that makes sense. The best defense is sometimes offense. So if you get hit a lot and you get a mini off and you're relatively healthy, the next best thing you guys can actually do is apply pressure back onto the person. Because if you don't apply any pressure to them, they're just going to keep pressuring you, and eventually they'll just get in your face and kill you. So the best defense is offense. So you're going to want to apply pressure. Once again, the thing with the double walls is it makes it a lot harder for someone to pressure into you. And now you can also use like a cone or a stair like this, which would make it 3 to 4 layers that they have to get to if they're just attacking from that one side to get to you. And once again, then you can edit out the back, edit down, and just do a bunch of other stuff. Now, a lot of things that I see people do wrong when they get hit, or once again, like on the defensive end, is, for example, if you get shot and you're boxed up over here, and like you're healing in there, and you see the opponent coming towards you like this, no builds, nothing, because obviously you're on the ground. What I see a lot of players do wrong is they'll just sit in the box, either create another box and just heal up right here and not apply any pressure. The thing is, you'll want to catch your opponent off guard. If they hit you a good amount, they're not going to expect you to edit up and look down back at them and start spraying them. Now, once again, if you get at least 2 to 3 tags with your AR on them, that's going to do a lot of damage to them, and they're going to actually have to box up and heal, and then you have the advantage because you can pressure with aggressiveness. And being super aggressive is really good. Grab the wall and just shoot them. Now, another thing a lot of you guys do wrong is not switching layers correctly when you are on the defensive end. For example, if someone is pressuring you from all sides, if you have a super aggressive player that is also super smart, they'll usually pressure you from most sides. So for example, they'll have something like this. They'll come this side, side. They'll even come around this way. And they'll just do stuff like that. Now, if you're in that situation, once again, you should have 2 boxes like always, and you should always have a cone in your box as well. If he's pressuring every single wall, the only way to go out is up or down if he's pressuring from every side. Now, if he does leave a side open, like if he's attacking from all these sides over here and he leaves this open, you can edit out this way and actually create another box, or edit out and get height on him. But the thing is, he can predict that pretty darn easily. For example, if he sees you turn around and he's right here, he can just go up and just do that. So what I do recommend is doing fake edits. Yes, you do these on offense and defense. So a fake edit, for example, if we're right here once again, say he's attacking from this side. What I want to do is I'm gonna edit like this, and then I'm gonna edit this back wall and act like I'm going out this way. As soon as I do that, I'm gonna drop down a couple layers and create more boxes. This will confuse him, give you some time to pop heals and whatnot, and then you can reapply pressure back onto him once again. Another thing, I dropped down 2 layers here. A lot of players just drop down 1 layer, and the sucky thing about dropping down 1 layer is if he predicts that, he can just full box you like this. So I recommend dropping him down more than 1 layer. Another thing is like in scrims, which is a lot more about defense than it is offense, unless you're a very aggressive player, is for example, if you're rotating and you get hit and you box up, there's so many different layers in endgames. So there's height, there's low ground, and there's mid ground. Now, mid is usually the most chaotic area. Usually in mid levels, you have more players surrounding you. Like you'll have almost a player on every single side of your box. So what you would want to do is once again drop down to all-time low ground. My favorite thing is to play all-time low ground. All-time low ground, usually, especially when rotating, you can just place stuff above you like this. And most players won't fight you because they're worried about the people that are on height or next to them in mid ground. So that's what I recommend doing. But once again, if you're playing defensively and the person from height actually drops down to key you, what I recommend doing is coning them off and then trying and finding a way to get height, especially in the later zones. This is just a defensive retake to just get back up on height, and you can actually use your defense once again to get up on height. The best defense is offense. And a lot of players wouldn't actually expect you to go up like that if they're pressuring you from height. Another thing you can do is pressuring from, like, say example, they're in zone right here. You can come up from behind them and a pressure through that way. Now, they're probably going to play defensive, but most players that play on height, they'll fight you. But as soon as you do any damage to you whatsoever, and this is what I recommend too if you get damaged while you're on height, is to drop down a couple layers. For example, I'd waterfall a couple layers down and box up all the way on low ground once again, because low ground is usually the safest spot to play, and low ground is pretty easy because you can look up pretty well and you can just have a more level playing field on low ground. This is where I get the most kills in my games and my tournaments. If, for example, I'll show you from mid ground. If you're on mid ground right here, you have to look through your bottom, your mid area, and your top. So there's 3 things you have to be careful about, and you have to watch that from all sides. So being on low ground, since you don't have to look at from below you, you only have to look at next to you and above you. And the people that are once again on mid ground and high ground will look at each other and most likely not focus low ground. So that is basically changing layers and how you're supposed to play an endgame with defense. Now, once again, the main thing in Fortnite is winning fights without taking damage, or dealing the most amount of damage without taking any damage, or once again, just playing defense. Because if you have the best defense in the game, no one is going to be able to beat you. The main thing that I see wrong with defense, once again, is people, for example, let's say you get hit and all your shield gets cracked. You're in the box, right? You're perfectly set up, whatnot, and you need to pop the minis. You're popping the minis, but then they just break in and kill you. So what I recommend is trying to hit one mini, and then create space again, just so you have that extra little bit of cover from the opponent. Another thing you guys can do is baiting heals. I don't actually see a lot of people bait heals. I love baiting heals. The best thing about getting damage is they know you're gonna try and heal up, but what they don't know is that you could be baiting it. Sometimes I will literally sit in a box, pop a mini, and right as it's about to pop, I'll either get off of it or I'll let it pop all the way, and then I'll try and pop another mini, but then I'll let go of it. That way that I'm not full health once again, which is kind of risky. But if the person drops down and starts like triple swinging on my wall because they think I'm healing, I can just be in here, take a right hand peek, and get damage off on them. So it's in your favor when you have damage on you. If that sounds weird, but it's true, because you can bait the heal and you can get damage on them, which then they'll have to heal up. And I don't see enough people baiting their heals. Once again, baiting your heals can also make you get up and get the advantage and get height. So if you play very defensive, you'll want to try and get height as much as possible. All right, another thing with like tarping. So I know a lot of you guys don't know how to tarp properly. There's multiple different ways to tarp, and there's tarping upwards like this. You can do it with cones as well. Then there's tarping regularly, which is just like this. Then the best one is zigzag tarping, which is where you go like this. This creates so you're not going in a straight line, which makes it more unpredictable, and you can even mix up the patterns. And then there is this tarping, which is the least amount of mats to tarp, but you can also get sprayed pretty easily. And then there's actually one more thing that I like to do. If you guys know about how when you're pressuring on someone's wall and you want to get in their box, you can just break it and jump through using a ramp. Well, you can also use this on the defensive end. For example, if you're in a box like this and someone's pressuring this side, you can edit that out, come this way, place your floor right here, place a stair, and if you place it correctly when you're running, it should phase like this, and you run forward and then you just jump, and it will boost you up, and then you can use that to your advantage to once again get counter damage or just get further away from your opponent. You can also use this when you're solo tarping. It gives you that extra little speed, and it gives you some good protection when tarping, and so I recommend doing that. It's just a sneaky little thing that I don't see a lot of players do when rotating. Yes, it does kind of leave you out in the open, but if you're low on mats, that is one of the best ways to rotate because you get the height coverage on you. Now, another thing I don't see a lot of people do when they're playing defensive is actually something called the controller movement. Now, controller movement, I call it this because whenever I fight a controller player, they usually, if I box them up, they usually just go like this and run around, which makes it harder for you to hit them because their movement is unpredictable, if that makes sense. Now, I have a lot of friends that do this movement, and it's really annoying, but it's actually really smart to use because it messes up people's like average aim. So if you, for example, if you get boxed up and there's nothing you can do besides try and break out or take the fight with them in the box, if they're in the box with you, just do the crazy movement and then pull out your shotgun every once in a while and try and get a hit off. It'll be harder for them to hit you. It will also be hard for you to hit them, but it gives you a more fair advantage because once again, they have everything around you and you have nothing, so you can try and do that, and most of the time they'll hit you or you'll hit them, and then they'll try and escape, and then you can break out. Real quick before we get into the rest of the video, when it comes to defense in Fortnite, every decision, every movement, every edit can be the difference between surviving a fight and getting third-partied. You can have the best strategies, but if your PC isn't performing at its best, those split-second plays can feel sluggish or delayed. That's why I rely on Risen's tweaking service. They specialize in optimizing your system to remove input lag, boost FPS, and make every action feel instant. With their tweaks, defensive plays that used to feel risky become much more reliable. Walls go up faster, edits register quicker, and you're able to react exactly when you need to. I've seen a huge difference in my own gameplay since using it. It feels like playing on a completely new level. And the best part, right now, if you click on the link in the description and or the pinned comment, you'll get 15% off at checkout, or you can use the code FLOW at checkout for the same discount. All right, now back to defense. There's also another thing you guys can do when you're in defense. Now, for example, once again, someone damaged you or you just boxed up and you want to get counter damage on them, or you've healed a good amount and you want to get counter damage on them again. You can edit like this. And especially if you're on ground, this works better. Like, I'll show you. I've seen Martaz do this a lot. It basically creates a fake box. So they think you're in the box because it is closed off like this. And if they're above you, they'll drop down from height and you can actually jump up, shoot them, and do stuff like that. that's like a bait. You can also bait with edits. So if you're boxed up, someone's pressuring this wall, edit, reset, they'll probably shoot the wall, then you can edit on them and shoot them again. Another thing is, once again, if people try and pickaxe swing and they're just double swinging, just use that time to just open up and shoot them, because you should be able to open up, shoot them, re-edit, and if they break the wall, then you hold it again. And you should be able to take it out. Now, if you're on higher ping, and I know defense is harder on higher ping because a lot of people can take your walls, the best thing you can do when getting a keyed is if they break your wall, to edit this and edit back, and then create multiple boxes. The higher the ping, you can't hold walls, so the only way to really do it is to pre-fire or create more space. So I recommend doing that. Now, if you're in trios or duos and you're by yourself, like a 1v2 or 1v3, and you're boxed up, I know a lot of this will happen to you guys in like FNCS or any tournaments you play. The main thing is a lot of players will pressure you from one side. Like a whole trio will pressure you from one side. Tier 1 pros, they have 3 different people pressure from all different sides, so that it's a lot harder to actually deal damage to them or fight them back. Now, it is really hard to 1v3 or 1v2. The best thing you can hope is to get pre-fire damage on them. Or once again, you can fake edits and do stuff like that. Another great way to catch them off guard is, for example, if you know these 2 walls are pretty heavy and like they're attacking them, but they're not doing a lot of damage to them, and you know a person's right here, you can edit this, cone them off, and then back off, and then it leaves you up to a 1v2 for a second because that player is coned off and they can't get on height. Now, you can even do that with 2 people. If, for example, you have this right here, you can edit, cone, and then you can come out this way again. And that would give you a one-on-one where you can deal damage. You can also get height. And once you're on height, the best thing you want to do is just play your height and just try and deal as much damage to them as possible. 1v3s are really hard because, once again, you have 3 times the fire rate and stuff coming towards you than you do against them. But once again, 1v3s are very counterable. If the opponents play dumb, like for example, if you hit 1 or hit 2 for pretty heavy, then they're just going to send the 1 person at you, and you can pick them off one by one by just playing defensive and pre-piece and whatnot like that. Once again, another thing about defense is pre-piece. Now, I've talked about pre-piece in basically every video I've ever had. Pre-piece is, for example, if you're like this, and you know an opponent's coming from this backside, and you know there's an opponent below you, once again, they don't have this, so you can just edit it down, pre-piece them, they'll walk into it, and you just get a free shot. Then you can once again come out and go like this, and you can even pre-piece this kid like this and shoot down. Pre-piece is one of the biggest things when it comes to defense, because using your own builds and piece control will help you counter so many fights and counter so many players that actually don't know how to fight, if that makes sense. Now, I know this is a defensive guide, and we've gone over a bunch of other stuff in this video. But I want to talk about the new weapons this season: the Wrecker, the Sentinel, and the OXR rifle. Now, the revolver was really good at the very beginning of the season. However, they have nerfed it. It's not as good. You can't double pump with it anymore, but it is still like a relatively good shotgun. Now, it's personal preference. This does damage from further range. This is better damage close range, in my opinion. But there's no doubt about it, you should only be using the OXR rifle for your games. And here's why. It does more damage to builds than the Fury does. It has a fast firing rate. Not extremely fast, not as fast as the Fury, but it does have a good fire rate, and it does a lot more damage to walls, which makes it easier to piece opponents and stuff like that. It also has really good aim, so if someone's going in the air, it's a lot easier to track with this because it's basically hit scan, and it will do a lot more damage. I'm pretty sure the gold one does like 33 damage to the body or something like that, which is absolutely insane. Fries everyone. And once again, the Sentinel is still better for dealing damage to builds and walls than the Wrecker is, so I recommend using that as well. Now, I'm only just telling you this because, once again, a lot of you guys always have questions about, oh, what should I use for my matches and whatnot. I recommend still using Sentinel and OXR. That is the best combo in my opinion. But you guys are also entitled to whatever you guys want to use. Now, there are some things I can't show you in creative, like for example, zone awareness, using defense for zone awareness, natural cover as defense, your positioning in storm as a defensive position, your rotational planning and stuff like that. But once again, most of the things that I've showed you in here, you can use in those situations. So for example, natural terrain, I always say this in all my videos, you guys need to be using natural terrain or already built things to your advantage. You can also use them to sneak up on opponents and stuff like that. For example, if someone has like an already built like tarp like this, because in a lot of end games and tournaments, you'll see people tarp or rotate like this, and people tarping like this or like rotating because they don't want to take damage. A thing that you guys, or I see a lot of people do, is they'll not actually use this to their advantage, and it's actually pre-defense already made for you. You can just rotate along this and you won't have to worry about people on this side. It helps conserve mats, and it's honestly one of the most important things you guys can do. Another thing is like trees or big rocks. I know there's a bunch of big rocks that basically you can hide behind, something like this, and there's trees you can hide behind and stuff like that. If you're low on mats, once again, you'll want to use stuff like that so that you don't have to build and waste your mats. Another thing that is very important about defense is not wasting mats. Now, I see a lot of people, yes, you create 2 boxes when you are getting pushed, but what I don't like seeing is someone getting sprayed from every angle. Like, say example, they do damage to all of this. I see a lot of people actually repair their walls, which just wastes extra materials that you could have used later on in the match. Like right there, I just wasted 6 brick to repair the walls for barely anything. So don't repair your walls that much unless you're like on literally your last mats and you have to repair the walls in order to stay in that box, because you don't have the materials to get out of that box. But once again, if you're boxed up, you want to use as little amount of materials as possible, because if you fight this person and then you kill them somehow, even though you're on the defensive end, you're probably gonna get third-partied right away, and you don't want to get third-partied and have no mats. So if you're onto the defensive, and I see a lot of people do this, is they'll just go on for like full-on edit courses and stuff for height like this, and it just wastes so much materials just to get one shot on a person. Like, look how much mats I just wasted doing that. You want to be conservative and actually play with your mats. You want to do as least amount of building as possible and stuff like that, because once again, if you use too much mats, you'll run out of mats mid-fight and you won't have anything to defend with, and if you get third-partied, you won't have anything to defend with. Now, this is actually going to be something that's not super defensive, but it's something you can use in your games to actually bait opponents and get free damage or free kills even. And now it might seem a little weird, but I have used this in the past and it actually works out pretty well. Have you ever come up against a platform like this? Maybe not as many cones, but something like this in any game or anything like that, where there's just a bunch of different spread out cones and stuff like that. Now, you can see people in the cones in this map, obviously, because everything's green, so everything goes through. But for example, if they're all metal, it's gonna be really hard to see the opponent in the cones. What I actually do is, for example, in end games, I'll throw something down like a crash pad or a launch pad, a super launch pad in the new season. And when someone comes and grabs it, I will actually piece them up, or me and my trio will just all spray them at the same time. This way you just get free kills, and it's literally might be the gayest possible way to get kills. But also, if you just need that like little extra point boost in a tournament, I would recommend utilizing that. Another thing I don't see a lot of people do is using third parties to their advantage. So the thing about third parties is, if you're fighting someone and you know a third party is coming, or you're getting sprayed at by a third party, you're obviously going to want to box up. Now, you can actually use a third party to your advantage. Once again, I would recommend going to the very low possible ground as possible if there's like a big fight above you, or try and find something that you've already built that's already solid like this, and then just place a cone inside and hide in your cone. And I know this might sound like a baby move to make, like why would I just hide in a cone when I could go fight? The main point of this, the thing about Fortnite, it's a survival, but it's also a shooter. So the two main things is dealing damage and killing people, but also surviving. You're not going to rank up or do good in tournaments if you don't survive. So what I recommend doing is using the third parties to your advantage. basically hiding or doing something like that. And then when you hear the other people fight, or you see someone die in the kill feed when someone just shot above you or something like that, then after you do that, you can push up and use it to their advantage, because the person will probably be lower than when they are fighting you, and they'll probably have less mats and less heals. So you have the upper hand in that. You turn the third party into your own third party, so you can third party them better, if that makes sense. So you guys want to do that as well. Once again, you're gonna want to do constant positional shifts. Being unpredictable is the main thing in Fortnite when it comes to actually being good. Once again, layer changing like this, and like boxing in weird positions, and just doing random stuff like this keeps you unpredictable and makes it hard for your opponents to actually read you and predict you, which makes it a lot more interesting. Another thing is staying calm when getting pressured. If you're getting pressured or lobbied, which is very annoying in endgames, you want to stay calm. Now, the best thing you can do if you're getting lobbied is you create space towards the bullets. If you're getting sprayed from this side and this side only, you're gonna want to create space towards it, and then you can edit back like this, and then you can also do this once again too. Stuff like that. You want to create it distance towards it so that you can come back all the way and just be fine back here. So you can do that. Another thing is staying calm. Once again, if you're getting sprayed, don't be freaking out and going like this, please. Unless you're getting sprayed from every angle, this is the only way to survive. But don't just be going like this like crazy. Especially if you're only getting sprayed from this side, you can just hold this one side and then make counter peeks and stuff like that. Just makes it a lot easier to react and stuff like that. Another thing you guys can do is actually bait with your own loot. For example, if you have like this right here, a lot of people won't realize it, especially if it looks like there's a fight that happened there and it's just left in a box. You can actually just have, for example, if there's loot in this box right here, you can just have it open and just make it look like a fight happened here. And then you can actually just be in like a cone back here. Once again, it's similar with the same idea over there. And as soon as someone comes down, you just shoot them. It's baiting. It's horrible, but in the same way, it works really well, and it's pretty great. But yeah, basically, that's just a bunch of stuff you can use to your advantage when you're defending, or how to like counteract certain things from defending. Once again, cones are your best friend in defense. Just spamming cones. Especially when someone's pressuring you, just spam cones are on them. Like if you're getting pressured like this, just put cones everywhere like that. It'll just make your opponent so mad. Or like if you're on height and you're trying to play defensively on height, one of the best things you can do is just go like this. You can literally just spam cones. It's gonna make it way harder for them to get through you. It's annoying for like if you're trying to get up on someone, but it's also just a lot better for defense because it covers off all the entry points they can get you up from. Once again, I know this is not all about defense. A lot of it is like how to counteract stuff and how to apply pressure onto people. And I've said a million times in this video, the best defense is good offense. So just use the things that I have taught you in this video. Use them to your advantage. And if you guys think there is anything that I missed, comment it down below. I know I do miss some things in these videos, and once again, these are more a beginner guide friendly video for people that are new to comp and new to all of this, but it still can help out some of you guys that don't think about some of these processes while you are in these fights or these defensive positions. All right, so first thing I want to kind of go over is like map awareness and stuff about that, because you need to really know the map, where all the loot is on the map, any changes to the map, like any constant updates, and all of this to really be locked in and focused on your game sense and your awareness and just everything on the map. If you don't know anything about the map or where things are on the map, you're going to be a lot more confused than people that know everything about a map. So what I want you guys to do, especially at the beginning of seasons or when new maps drop, like the reload map was dropped today, the new reload map, you're going to go onto Fortnite.gg and you can change like OG, you can do reload, you can do the new one, see like here's the new reload map. And what you're going to do is you're going to turn on spawns. Now you're going to look around the map and you're just going to basically look around where all the loot is and everything like that. And you can do this once again for any map. I'm going to go back to the Battle Royale because it's a better, more sustained map and there's a lot more loot and stuff like that. So you guys should have your drops already at this point in the season, but if you don't, this is a great way to find your drop. But basically what I'm going to go over is you're going to look at the entire map. every season. And every update, if there's map changes, like for example, there was map changes to right here where this whole POI got taken out. At the beginning of the season, this was changed, and halfway through the season, this area was changed too. And that's about it that I know of as of right now. But what you're going to do is you're going to basically look around at each little area and you're going to look at the loot. Like there's a chest on this mountain, bushes, obviously, more chests. And you're going to just make like kind of like a mental note of where all these things are, because later on you might need them in your matches, your ranked matches, your tournaments. You might need heals. You might need a slur barrel so you can know that they're right here. So basically, you're going to just make a mental note of everything. So you're just going to kind of glide across the map and basically look at everything. Look which places have good loot, which places have good metal, where there's height, where there's low ground, all these little things where good rotations could be through these mountainous areas, like rifts right here. And just basically look around the map. And you can choose a drop spot based off of this, because once again, if you choose a drop based off of how much loot there is and other stuff like that, you can create multiple different splits, and then you just master that and you create your own loot path, and then you are literally set for tournaments. Once again, we're just going to go around, look for all these loot. Like, I'm not very aware of my lower bottom right corner. I've never been in this area, so like New Sanctuary, like there's a bunch of chests, there's rare chests. And once again, not all these are 100% spawn rates. Basically, after we take a picture of all these areas and like where all the loot is in our brain, we're going to actually go into the game and we're going to go and loot all of these areas. So like, yeah, once again, like rare chests, slurp barrels, all of this stuff. There's like little mountains around the area. So this is the ultimate low ground in this area. And then there's mountains around it, surrounding it. Just take little mental notes of that. There's like zip lines. And once again, just keep going around and just checking every little thing. And if you really want to get really intricate, like say, for example, this is my drop, know where every chest is. So chest up here, there's multiple chests down here with chug barrels, chest right here, 2 chests right here, 2 chests right here, chest right here, 2 chests right here, and then all this loot down here. And then once again, slurp truck down here. I've memorized this whole area. I know where all the chests, ammo boxes, and everything is, so forth. So once again, just take a mental note. And you guys can change the things on the left to make it so it's more competitive, like thing. So you can turn on vending machines and mending machines and basically just check around, and like you can turn on produce boxes, fishing spots, fishing rods, all of these things, reboot vans, just so you guys can get a good look at all this. And yeah, vaults and chaos cubes and stuff like that. Once again, once after you take a mental note and you know what's like the whole map, then we're going to go back into Fortnite and you're going to just queue up into a regular unranked match. You can do this in ranked. I would just say do it in unranked, because what we're going to do is we're going to go on the map, land somewhere where we barely land or we have not a lot of knowledge about, and we're going to go and loot the whole area and then just find loot around that area too. So we can, once again, if you actually put your practice into play, you will remember things instead of just like looking at the map from a top view. If you actually go on the map and look for stuff in the map and find the stuff, then you'll have a way better chance of finding it later in other games or tournaments or stuff once again. All right, and once we load in, we're going to choose the part of the map that like we don't go to really. And as you guys can see, Builder Barracks, New Sanctuary, Dark Dominion, Squibbly Shores, and Frigid Fortress. I've played all of these in tournaments and stuff, but I actually haven't played regular Battle Royale with these. So we're going to go to New Sanctuary because that is somewhere I've basically never been this entire season. Once again, we're still going to try and get a good drop because getting good drops to every POI is something you guys should also learn as well. But we'll get, once again, more into that a little bit later on. The main thing we need to cover right now is map knowledge, because map knowledge literally plays into everything else inside of Fortnite. All right, so we're going to land here. We're going to take a note of where the like ground loot spawns are too, just so we can remember those for later on. Once again, we're going to come over here real quick and we're just going to kill this kid. Once again, take a picture, like there's ground loot right there sometimes. Ammo box right here, where zip lines are, just so that when you come through the POI, once again, you'll remember everything. And usually open up the stuff, because that makes your mental will think about it more later on. Once again, another thing, another chest. One thing you will also learn about the Fortnite map is a lot of chests and ammo boxes are like, a lot of ammo boxes are on top of things and a lot of chests are on the ground. Or like, yeah, like they're on a single layer. Ammo boxes usually play like above stuff or other stuff like that. You can also take mental notes of like bricks and stuff like that. Once again, just like there's vending machines, ammo things, more ground loot. There's even a boss here, or a guy to talk to. Once again, the main thing in this Battle Royale match is just looting everything. Not necessarily even playing the game. It's just getting a good thought process of where everything is. And so check every room, check every ammo box, every ground drop, everything like that. And once again, zip lines and other stuff like that. And even the vaults. All right, we're gonna open up this vault. Once again, if you guys can, make a mental note of everything in the vault as well, because you might need it for later on in other matches. Once again, after you kind of loot a whole area, like there's a chest in there, but I'm not gonna get it because I already have a good loot. Then you're just gonna go and you're gonna do the same thing for either the rest of the match, or you can just play the rest of this match out. But yeah, that's basically all you're gonna do. So once again, I've been fighting a little bit of people, but I've been kind of just running around making little mental notes of where loot is and everything like that. And once again, just do this for the entire map. And if you guys have played enough Battle Royale, Reload, or anything, this map knowledge will kind of just like come to you as you play more on the map, because once again, you'll just be randomly looting special areas. Zones will pull certain ways and stuff like that. So you guys, a lot of you guys won't even need this part because you do have super good map awareness. But once again, if you do not know every part of the map, do this and go through every POI, every little area, and just find little things like that. But now with the map awareness, we can hop into the next section of this, which is going to be predicting storms and like storm knowledge. All right, so basically for storm knowledge, the best way I like to do this, either go into my own ranked or tournament games and watch the zones and stuff like that, or you guys can just go into, once again, pro tournaments and you guys can just watch how their zones pull. You can do this any other way. It's not like that hard, but the main thing is we're just going to watch zones, see how they pull, and what they do. So for example, this is a win right here. So we're going to watch this because we're going to be able to watch all the way to the end of it. Now, what we want to do is we want to skip kind of further into the match, because once again, we're only here for these zones. We're not here for the gameplay or anything else. If you guys want to watch the gameplay too, that is totally fine. I am just here for the zones. That's all I'm here for. So if we go right here, you guys can see that in 20 seconds, the first zone will pop. So you guys can skip to those 20 seconds, or you can just wait, watch the gameplay and everything like that. And basically what we're going to be watching for is where the zone pulls. And then based off that, where that zone pulls, we're going to predict or try and predict where the next zone will pull. So you guys will get better at this the more you do it, or the more games you play. Once again, all this thing can be done in like thousands of hours worth of gameplay, or even a couple hundred hours of gameplay. But if you guys really want to maximize your potential and amount of where the zones are going to pull, you guys can do this. So we're going to pause it right here, and we're going to just look at where zone pulled. So it pulled further down to this lower bottom part. So I'm just going to guess that it's going to pull more this way. And I might be completely wrong, because sometimes zones are completely random. But there is usually a pattern with zones. So I'm going to just predict that it's going to pull more down this way. And then once again, we're just going to kind of just skip ahead about a minute in front. And we're going to just see where the next zone pulled. And then based off that prediction of the last one, we're going to make another prediction. So we're going to open this up. So if we look at the zone, it actually did pull where I thought it was going to pull. So the first zone pulled this whole area. Second zone pulled once again more into this lower area, into this corner, which makes me think that the third zone is either going to pull right here or right here. I'm not sure if it's going to pull fully bottom left corner, but one of these three areas. Once again, you can use these predictions to actually plan your rotates when you're in the game. So if you're, once again, like this team up here, and you know zone pulled down twice down here, you're going to want to come more down to this lower part or in this central area right here, because if it does pull right here, here, or here, you'll have a really simple rotate. So that's basically what we're doing. We're trying to predict and basically take an example and reposition yourself to that area, if that makes sense, just so you guys can get this habit into your brain, and then you guys can use this in your own games. So once again, we're going to skip ahead and we're going to try and look for the third zone. Now, once again, I was right again. I didn't think it was going to fully pull down into this bottom left corner right here, and it did kind of pull more to the side. So it pulled twice down and then again down, but to the left a little bit. And once again, these teams that are up here, they could have been in this area and been safe. But once again, this is a pro lobby, so a lot of people stay out in Storm later on. But now, based off this zone, we're going to predict where the next zone is going to be. And honestly, I think it's going to still pull like either down here or up here. I don't think it's going to pull this very back corner. I might be wrong, but I think it's going to pull up here or down here. And once again, you're just going to go and skip ahead a couple minutes, because zones do take a couple minutes until you get later on in the game. Now, that one I was wrong about. I thought it was going to pull up here or down here, but it actually kind of pulled back. And you'll see this a lot in most zones. It will pull down 3 or 4 zones in the same kind of area, and then it'll kind of shift sides, and then it'll kind of shift sides again. So it basically makes the rotates a lot harder. So once again, pull down here all the way, then it kind of pushed back into this area. So I'm either thinking it's going to pull down this way again because it's going to go the opposite, or it might pull up here. Once again, one of these two areas, and I might be completely wrong, but based off of my knowledge of the game, that's where I'm going to kind of question where it's going to go. And once again, these are predictions, and you're not going to always be 100% right in any of these. So once again, we're going to scoot forward another 3 minutes, two to 3 minutes. And this one, I was a little bit right. I was saying it was either going to pull up here or down here, and I was once again right. It kind of did the opposite. So it pulled down here 4 ways or 3 ways, and then the fourth zone pulled back here, and then this zone pulled back right here. So once you kind of get into these zones, they're kind of predictable once again, but they start pulling out a storm. So I think the next one's going to pull like this way, and or I might be completely wrong and it might pull this way. So let's just see. And once again, if you guys want to get even better at this stuff, you guys can kind of write how these zones pull down and how they pull and stuff like that, just so you guys can get better map knowledge. And then you can kind of see patterns. So like 3 pulled down, 4th pulled up and back, then 5th was the opposite, 6th pulled down again, so similar to 1, 2, and 3, and then 6th zone kind of pulled the similar way that 5th zone pulled. So then when you go into the next game, you can kind of use that same strategy and see any like differences and similarities between the two. And once again, it pulled down this way, and these zones, usually after this zone, you don't have to worry too much about predicting the next zone because they're all going to be super close and rotating zones either way. But once again, I think it's going to pull out more towards storm. So I'm thinking it's going to be either here or here. And then once again, you're going to come back and you're going to skip another 3 to 5 minutes. And I was wrong once again, but it didn't pull here or here. It actually pulled back upwards. So you can once again write that down and see how it pulled and compared to the other zones. And so it pulled up once again right here. And then when these zones go, once again, you don't really have to predict them because you're all going to be moving anyways. So these games, you kind of focus more on playing them out and playing in these zones, and you just mark the zones as they go. That's kind of how they are. It's sometimes good to predict them, but sometimes not. So once again, based off of this zone, I think it's going to pull into storm once again because now they're all pulling into zone. So I'm either thinking, because it's Fortnite, it's going to pull up the mountain, or it's going to pull further down this way. Once again, skip another 3 to 5 minutes. And if you guys want to get better at these two, you guys can just watch these full end games out of how they pull and stuff like that. And I was actually completely wrong. It pulled all the way back down into Battlewood Boulevard. Once again, you're kind of just all moving throughout this zone, so it won't matter too much. But yeah, you guys are going to just keep doing that, and you guys can do this like 2 games a day doing this and writing stuff down and then comparing. Seeing the differences and similarities in the matches will help you like work your brain into how these zones work. And then once again, another great thing you guys need to do, especially if you're going to be playing tournaments or any competitive, is writing down when Storm Surge hits in these zones, and how much Storm Surge you need for each zone, and players in each zone. So like, for example, for Storm Surge to hit in one zone, there has to be 65 players, or for Storm Surge to hit in the 4th zone or whatnot, there has to be 80 players alive. So you need to get those zones down with how many players need to be alive for Storm Surge, and then the average amount of storm damage for those actual like fully closed zones. So you guys know what the average is going to have to be, so that when you do get into your tournaments and your matches, you guys can figure out, oh, I need 300 surge damage before the 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th zone. You get what I'm saying? And then once again, once you guys do that, then you guys will have basically full map awareness and storm knowledge, and having both of those are actually really strong because you'll know where most zones are going to pull over most people, and you'll know more about the map and where you can hide and where launch pads are, and more map knowledge than most of the people in your game as well. But now we're going to move on to the next thing. All right, so now I'm going to just go into a creative map and actually explain some of these other things that you guys are going to be utilizing for awareness and basically game sense, and we're going to talk about each one individually. I'll show you guys some examples of them and what to do in certain situations and stuff like that. And then once again, this whole video is super long and just information based. So if you guys do need to save it and watch again, I highly recommend it. And if you are enjoying the video so far, make sure to leave a like and comment down below what you think of the video so far. We're just going to hop into 1v1 map, and then I'll show you guys some things from here on out. All right, so most of these things I've already covered, like fighting awareness, defensive awareness, and all these other things I've kind of covered in 2 of my previous videos that are similar to these types of videos where they're very informational and stuff like that. So if you guys want, go watch those videos after this one. And I will be dropping like the full like 1.5 hour guide with all of the 3 videos combined, so you guys can just sit and binge watch that type of video, and that will be coming out soon. But basically what I'm going to just cover are some of the little things that are in Fortnite that have to do with awareness and that will really help with your game sense and stuff like that. So one of the first things I want to talk about is audio awareness. Now, a lot of you guys rely heavily on what you guys know as visual sound effects, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but knowing what sounds go with visual sound or visual sound effects and other things like that is very important. So for example, like if you hear if you see footsteps and you know the person is around you, you need to use your audio to figure out where they are around you. So like, for example, if you see footsteps close to you, you can tell they're either below you or above you based off of different sound cues. And that's basically what I want you guys to learn. I can't really show you it in my own 1v1, but like, for example, like if you're in this box and you hear footsteps and you hear someone and you hear a certain sound cue, you should know that they're above you, which will give you the information, all the information you know to do something like this. So it's basically like just using your sound cues that you know. And Fortnite is very big on sound cues. They added visual sound effects, which helps a lot. But other games don't have visual sound effects, so you have to know your audio cues. So like games like Rainbow Six Siege, games like Valorant, all these different types of things lead to different like either different utility usage, different heals, different guns, all that type of stuff. You guys need to be able to tell those types of things just off of the audio. And I know a lot of you guys don't do that, and that's what really sucks for a lot of you guys, is your guys' awareness with audio sucks, which makes your overall awareness so much worse, like just running through a map and whatnot. It just makes it so much worse because you guys can get caught off guard so easily. Now, another thing that kind of goes with audio awareness is just overall awareness of yourself and people around you. So I see a lot of you guys, like, for example, rotating through zones. Let's just say I'm rotating through zones, or I'm just rotating on the map in Battle Royale, and I'm just running this way, and you guys are just like looking in the direction you're running. And you guys aren't doing any movement. You're just literally running like this, or maybe you're jumping, sliding, no sprinting in between. So what I want you guys to do instead, and which is going to help you guys be a lot more aware of your surroundings and things that are happening around you, is when you're running, just kind of like run in the direction, but like you can like turn, you can like sprint, use different types of movement, and just look around you and other stuff like this. And this is really easy with a duo because one person can be like looking like this way, and another person can be looking like this way. So you have both directions covered, and so you guys can't get caught off guard. So that kind of goes with audio awareness because once again, you guys can hear audio cues and know where they're coming from. But then also, once again, this is just regular awareness, so you guys know what's happening around you and when, and stuff like that. Now, a lot of things that you guys don't know about is there's a lot of different types of awareness in the game, and there's these awarenesses go in basically every other shooter game as well. So there's something called timing awareness, there's third-party awareness, there's fighting awareness, there's defensive awareness, there's layer awareness, so like which layer you are on. Basically everything you do in the game, there's some sort of awareness or game sense to it. And so game sense, people like to talk about it as an overall type of thing, like you just need better game sense, and they're really vague about what that actually means. So for example, like most people and most videos, they'll just tell you, well, if you want to get the best awareness and game sense, all you need to do is take more fights and play more games. And yes, they're right, but you're not going to have the same awareness as a tier 1 pro player if you just started, if you just play the game, because they already have 4,000 to 8,000 hours of gameplay over you. So there's no way you're actually going to be able to like know, oh, when this shot is shot, it's a Chaos Reloader shotgun, or when this gun is shot, it's a pistol, or based off of how long a heal is, you don't know what heal it is. So there's little things like that. So yes, it is, the more you play, the better your game sense and awareness will be. But at the same time, the more you break specific things down and actually apply it to your like mental, the faster you will be able to get it. So you can get the awareness of someone that's played 4,000 hours well within 500 hours if you're focusing on it. So I'm going to go into timing awareness, which is one of the most underrated skills in Fortnite. So that's like when to fight, when to rotate, when to basically box up, when to hold players, when to predict when players are going into certain areas, literally everything that has to do with timing. So edits, builds, all of that stuff. And usually you guys die in game or in your rotations or just to random things because your timing is slightly off. That's the thing that top tier pros have that 99% of you guys don't have, which is perfect timing. In my last video, I actually broke down a team that had like the most amazing timing for rotations, and it was really crazy. So I recommend you guys going and checking that out after this video as well. But once again, it's just like timing. There's timing in when you edit, there's timing in when you place builds, there's timing in when you full box someone, shoot, and when they're going to respond, stuff like that. So just focus on your timing. Basically, a way to focus on your timing with building and editing is just the same time you like press to edit, you actually do the edits, and then you release, or you press the coupon once again. But this is basically just going off of game sense and awareness. So like timing of when to rotate zones, which we kind of went over a little bit. It's just basically choosing when to do certain things. So when you rotate, you should wait to rotate until some other people rotate, so you're not the first one, so you don't get beamed, or you're not the last one, so you get fried. Certain things like that. Another thing you guys need to be aware of is third-party awareness, because a lot of you guys like to third-party. I know everyone third-parties in Fortnite. That's just how the game is. But a lot of you guys third-party incorrectly because your awareness is actually horrible when you go into third-party. So for example, let's say a team is fighting right here on this box, and you see, oh, like you're over here, and you're like, oh, you see them fighting, right? So you're like, okay, you know there's at least two people here fighting. A lot of you guys will just run up and wait, or run up and just start fighting right away. Like try and take their wall and full piece them and kill them, right? Like who wouldn't want to do that? You want to fight. But what a lot of you guys need to do is when you're actually rotating to them, you need to be looking around, just making sure that you're the only third party, because if you get third partied while third partying someone, there's going to be 4 to 8 players, depending on what type of like game mode you're playing, that are pushing the same player, and that's going to make it a lot harder to get a kill and get out or reset and re-engage. So once again, if you're about to third party someone, but you see, oh, there's a player right there, you can either try and take a fight with that player, but I wouldn't recommend it, because then you'll get kind of pushed if this fight like fizzles out and one of the players dies, and then you start fighting a player like this, then they might third party you. So you can either spray at them and then stay back off, and that kid still might third party him, or they might just like stay over there. Or if there's no one third partying them, you can third party them. Now, what a lot of you guys do wrong when third partying someone is you third party without knowing too much about the third party. So for example, the people fighting, most of the time you can see like them fighting, because a lot of people will fight out in the open. They're not super aware of like their boxes and stuff around them. So let's say, for example, you just run up and you just third party without any knowledge of the fight whatsoever. Someone could come from height, someone could come from below, by the side of you. I mean, even if you box up and you're taking this wall right here, you're still fighting someone right here, and he could come out of nowhere and third party you, which we don't want to happen. So you guys need to wait for the perfect moment. Once again, this ties into timing awareness. And it's like, for example, if he's pushing and you see one of the players get cracked, or you see one of the players box up and try and heal, that is a good time to third party, because you can either get the kill on the person that's healing, or you can get the kill on the person that is trying to force every single fight of things on the player. And you want to basically you're just trying to fight and get a kill, and then you can take another 1v1. That's what I'm getting at. So, but you also need to decide which player you're going to go for. Are you going to go for the fully healthy player, which is going and fighting and trying to get into the box of the player healing, or you're going to fight the player that's healing because he's already getting pressured, and you can pressure him together, kind of pinch him and get the kill on him? And it depends on the scenario once again, but you guys need to make that decision for yourself. And the only way you guys are going to get better at the timing and awareness of those third parties and those decisions is if you actually do third party and stuff like that. So once again, you have to do it in the actual game to actually learn that type of stuff. Now, a lot of things that you guys don't know about is like layer awareness. Now, a lot of you guys, when you guys are in endgames, are super cooked when you guys are playing in endgames. A lot of you guys will just literally sit in the middle layer the entire time. And I mean, that's not a problem. But like, for example, if it pulls up zone, you're going to be pulling up into the people that are in height looking down at you. And if you're in the upper layer of mid, like if you're in the upper part of the mid layer, the height is just going to spray at you. But if you're on low ground, you're going to get kind of cooked because you have to go up through all the other mid layer players. So there's like a happy medium of finding where you need to be and when. If you know the zone's going to pull up a mountain and you have to tarp upwards, you want to be kind of in the middle of everyone, and you want to be super protective of going up. But if it pulls down once again, you might want to drop from your middle layer, like right here, to ultimate low ground, because ultimate low ground is a super strong position, especially going downwards, because it's really easy to just stay on low ground. And people that are on low ground usually don't have as many fights because you don't have to worry about people below you, but you can still look at people that are above you and stuff like that, and you won't get sprayed from height because you're not on that layer. But then another thing you guys need to also be like aware about is being on height and being aware of height awareness. So like for example, being on height, and there's certain ways you guys can tarp around zones. So like stay on the full right side of zone so you can see the entire zone and stuff like that. There's things like that. But what I'm talking about for layer awareness is knowing where the second height is at all times and knowing where zone's pulling and if anyone could shockwave up onto you and stuff like that. And a lot of pros are really good at this because they'll like have a person on the back part or they'll have someone on the front part. If you're in solos, you can kind of just watch both. But your main goal is to stay a couple layers above second height just so it's very hard for someone to get height over you. And it's also another thing that you guys need to know for layer awareness is when to switch from height to get to mid ground. Like say if you're running out of mats, you're like, okay, like I don't have a lot of mats, I need a refresh, but I still have a little bit of mats. You're gonna drop to mid ground so you can take fights and you can get a kill, or you can look from height, get a kill, grab loot, and build back up. Another thing though is you don't want to be too high up when you are on height. So say for example, this is second height right here. This box right here is second height. You want to be at least 2 to 3 layers above, but you do not want to be more than that. So being up here is way too far above second height, I think. You're going to be, I mean, once again, they can still shockwave up on you in third, like if they're only 3 layers below you, even 4 layers, but you don't want to be super high off the ground because it makes you way easier to shoot down. And when you do get shot down, you can die to fall damage once again. So you want to be more aware, build like 3 layers or 2 layers above, and stuff like this. So yeah, it's just knowing when to do all those different things of changing layers and all that other stuff like that. And once again, this kind of ties into timing, when you need to, when you don't need to, and stuff like that. And people that play low ground, I feel like survive a lot longer than people that play mid or high ground, just because they're only getting sprayed from, they can only get sprayed from 1 layer above or on the side. Instead of mid ground, you can get sprayed from all angles, and height, you can get sprayed from bottom or side. But yeah, that goes with layer awareness. And then the next thing that kind of ties into layer awareness or just the game in general is resource awareness. So not just your mats, but everything, your ammo, when your guns are reloaded, how much shockwave uses you have left, how many uses in your movement you have left, how long it takes for that movement to like reset, like the gloves, how long does it take to fill them all up all the way? It's kind of just stuff like that. So just remembering all those little things. So what I like to do is before I rotate to a next zone is I like to make sure all my guns are reloaded. I know how much mats I have. I always switch to my harder materials before I rotate, just so that when I do rotate and I need to box up right away, I can box out of harder materials and just stuff like that. It's also like changing materials when you're rotating. So like when you're rotating, obviously like this, and someone's trying to spray at you, you want to use your wood first, and then your brick, and then last resort is your metal. But then when you get into zone, you want to either box out of brick or you want to box out of metal, just so you have, it's way harder for people to get into your actual boxes. Never box out of wood unless it's literally your last resort, because people can just two-touch your wall and full piece you once again. So it just ties into all of that. And this once again ties into mechanics, and which is why I'm going to be putting the mechanics videos with this video, which will be an 1.5 hour long guide, basically just about everything that you guys need to know for tournaments and comp and mechanics and everything basically like that. Now I was going to go into like your mental awareness and your composure, but I've already made multiple videos on that. Basically, you guys just need to stay calm. You guys can rage for a second, but you need to compose yourself and actually lock back in, because if you don't compose yourself and you're in a tournament, it's just wraps. It's just wraps and you'll just die. But also another thing I would like to point out is like damage of weapons. Now, a lot of people don't go into depth on these things because it's kind of simple, but you guys should know the damage output of every single weapon. You should know how much damage a pistol does to body, how much it does to a head, and same thing with shotguns, how much it does to body, how much it does to a head, how much it does to the feet, similar stuff to that. You should also know how much it does to a wall. So like for example, the gold chaos reloader will take 3 shots to break a fully built wood wall, whereas a pistol takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So when you're pushing a box, instead of just spraying like this and wasting ammo, especially if you're low on ammo, you can predict it and you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just break another box perfectly, timing it and everything like that, which once again ties back into timing. But that's just something else I wanted to talk about for a bit, is just covering that little bit of, remember, every season go over all the weapons, play with all the weapons, learn everything about them, and kind of just put them into play and stuff like that. All right, now that we've gone over some of the more basic stuff and I've kind of explained most of the basic stuff, we're gonna actually go into some of the deeper and like more like thought process of those certain things. So I'm gonna go over once again like audios and stuff like that. Even though we did go over the basics of it, we're gonna go more in depth. And what really separates like really good players from like just mediocre or mid players like myself, you know? Anyways, the first thing we're going to talk about once again is sound and information interpretation. Now, you might say, well, Flo, that sounds kind of crazy. What are you talking about of interpretation of information? Well, it's like, you know how you hear footsteps or you see footsteps on your screen and you just say, oh, there's someone nearby. Instead of just saying, oh, there's someone nearby, a good player will immediately ask the questions, where are they? What layer are they on? Are they healing? Are they looking for a fight? Is it a solo or is it a duo? Do they know where I am or do they not know where I am? And it's stuff like that. Or it's like if you hear like someone reloading. So like, for example, I shoot and I reload and footsteps like slowing down, or you hear footsteps and then they stop. They're either healing and it's a free time to push, especially if you hear heals being popped, or they're trying to sneak up on you or someone else, so you need to be more careful. Another thing is like someone just like sprinting and like spamming builds and edits. It usually means that they're about to fight someone or they're going to fight someone, which means you could probably wait for the third party. And I kind of already covered most things about third parties and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just like simple little things of from sound that you get to make certain decisions based off of. So what you need to use is your audio and like, well, obviously your visual sound effects, and then predict what those players are going to do based off of that, which is just a little bit deeper than what we talked about earlier on. The next thing I want to talk about is player count and the lobby awareness. So what you guys want to always know is how many people are left in the lobby, how many people landed in your POI, and how many people are left in your POI after a fight or two, and how many are like rotating in your layer once you're in an end game. So we kind of already talked about layers and before this and like rotating in end game, but you want to be on a layer where not everyone is. If there's like 7 or 8 people on your layer, I almost said 6 or 7, you want to change layers so you're on a layer where there's a lot less people, because then you have a lot less like chance of getting shot or like fought basically and dying in end game. So there's stuff like there's certain points in the map where it's like if there's 50 people left in like the 4th zone, then it might be a stacker and it might not be, but your main goal should be to survive there. But if there's like 20 to 30 people alive, you'll probably want to like in the 4th zone, you'll want to rotate early, or you'll want to do a lot of your stuff earlier on, because you have a way lower chance of actually seeing someone on the map when you're doing stuff like that. And once again, if there's like 10 to 15 people alive in that last zone, you can literally just go to the center of zone and control like a random position. Like say for example, like this is gonna be really small, but like I'm in center of zone right here and there's 12 to 15 people left. If you're on a tall mountain, you're going to be able to see most of the zones. You're just going to hold your positioning, because once again, the main part of Fortnite is once again to get like placement. Most games, most tournaments require you to get higher placement in order to do good. And yes, kills do matter, but 10 to 15 people left, it's worth it to go for more placement. You can still go for kills, but once again, you guys should just do the simple thing of rotating early and position holding. And then another thing on top of that is most people treat every stage of the game the same way. So they'll treat the off spawn like, oh, we need to get a kill off spawn. Then they'll get into mid game and they'll think, oh, we need to get another kill in mid game. And then they'll go into end game and they'll be like, oh, we need to get another kill, when their main priority should be staying alive. So like, and I've done this many times in tournaments, me and my duo have. It's like say for example, we're in this box and there's 10 teams left, and this is where most of the placement is going to actually like help us. Me and my duo have done this so many times where we have good loot, good mats, good weapons, everything. We have movement, we're set. All we need to do is rotate and box up. But we'll take like these little like dumb fights just because we get greedy and we want to kill. What we should be focusing on is the end of the game and trying to get that win. So we should like tarp out, create more boxes and all that stuff. And a lot of you guys treat basically every part of the game the same, which you guys should definitely not do. Another thing you guys need to think about is, and I kind of talked about positioning before, but it's like pressure awareness. So you know how I told you guys earlier on that like you're rotating and you want to look around while rotating and stuff like that? There's an even deeper like level to this. It's like if you're rotating and you're rotating in a pretty like flat terrain and you don't see anyone around you, but let's say there's a mountain, like let's just say this is going to be a mountain and we're coming around the mountain like this. We've got to be ready. Your main priority should be focusing on the things behind this mountain or on top of this mountain instead of looking back this way, because you already have cleared this area while running up and you don't know if someone's going to be behind this angle or not. So it's like knowing who's behind here, when they're going to be behind there, if someone's behind there. That's another thing you guys need to do. And then on top of that, it's just like pre-aiming. A lot of you guys don't pre-aim when you're like walking around a mountain. Like if, for example, if the mountain's still right here and you think there's a player behind it, or you hear an audio cue and you know there's someone behind it, you want to pre-aim around the corner. A lot of you guys will just run across like this and then turn later on, but you guys want to actually pre-aim the corner because it will give you a way faster opportunity to get a shot off. And once again, on top of that, you guys will need a good loot for that. And we already talked about with weapons and stuff, but I want to talk about your inventory and what your actual win conditions are. So when we talked about weapons, I told you guys to know everything about the new weapons, everything like that. But it's also like knowing, am I good enough with these certain weapons? Like if you don't have the exact loadout you want, or it's like, are these weapons good enough to actually win a fight against someone that does have good weapons? Or noticing what win condition you might have. For example, if you have max mats, but your like shotgun's not that good or anything like that, you still have max match, which is a good win condition. But the other opponent might have a gold shotgun, which is another great win condition. So it's just stacking up win conditions on top of another player. And then it's also thinking about like, if you do have gray loadout and horrible heals, it's like, and you're in a fight, you're like, well, can I actually win the fight against this person? Do I need to avoid fighting this person for a sec and possibly go find more loot? And is my priority to fight this player or get surge and get out or play for rotations? So for example, if you have a low mats, like if you have like 100 builds and you only have a shotgun, you do not need to take 50-50 fights at all, because if you do hit that shotgun shot off, but they do get in your box, you're screwed either way because they probably have an SMG or AR. But if you have like AR, heals, mobility, you can take more fights because you have more opportunities to get into the player's face. You have a win for the 50-50 condition. You have mats, you have heals. So if something does go wrong, you can still reset and re-engage, if that makes sense. So it's just thinking like that. And you usually only have to think about these things at the beginning of the game, or if you get rebooted, or if your teammate gets rebooted, so forth, stuff like that. Another thing you guys need to think about is your rotation risk. So like a safe rotate, usually you can be on the edge of zone. So for example, like let's just say this box is where you are and this box is the, like just from here over there is the edge of zone. And this side is like heavy congested side. You should have a pretty free rotate. You should probably be able to build a little bit while you're rotating, but on this way, your risk is very low because there's no one on this open side. There's also like medium risk, which is like if you had to rotate from here and let's say that is the place you have to go to, you have to rotate kind of more towards the congested side. Even if you do rotate around this area right here, you're still in way more people's sight lines rotating out this way. And obviously you can use different movement and stuff besides just running or tarping or anything like that, but that's still a medium risk. And then once again, high risk is like, for example, you are on congested side and no one's rotated yet, and you try and rotate from there to there. You're very high risk because anyone can look at you, anyone can just get on top of you and stuff like that. Now I'm going to kind of get into like fighting game sense and awareness and like defensive game sense and awareness. I have 2 previous videos, like I've said before, about like defensive mechanics and offensive mechanics and just overall mechanics. But these are going to be kind of like some of the game sense that goes into those things. So before every fight you guys take, you guys should talk or think. I mean, obviously you should talk to your duo about it, but if you're in solos, you should think like, am I trying to kill this person fast? Do I have to kill this person fast? Or can I take a slower and controlled fight that I take less damage but still get the kill? Do I need a refresh or not? Am I fighting like an isolated kill? Like, is there a very high third-party involvement? So like if you're fighting in the center of zone, your third-party involvement is going to be way higher. So you guys need to be more careful of that. So like if I'm fighting right here, the third-party involvement is going to be way less than if I was fighting, for example, over there. And then you also need to think about while you're in that fight, am I baiting this fight? Am I forcing this fight? Or am I doing a little bit of both? Stuff like that. And a lot of things that bad players do is they just fight to fight, and 90% of like players fight for a reason, unless you're just Peterbot going for kills. But yeah, most good players fight for a reason, fight for something they need, or other things like that. Another thing you guys need to know is damage tracking. So you should always know, for example, how much you hit them for, what the builds around them are, how much each weapon does to builds, like we talked about earlier. So you know exactly what you need to do in order to get that kill. So if you hit someone for 150, but then you hear them heal up for another 50, then you hit them for another 50, you know they're at 100 health. So they were still one shot to a shotgun. You guys need to be able to track that damage. And if you are in duos, trios, once again, you need to actually calm that damage to your teammates. And please do not give fake comms. Another thing like that is like knowing how much heals they have. If you hear them hit 6 minis, that means they're probably out of minis. If you hear them hit 3 big pots, they're probably out of bigger heals and they only have minis left over. So it's just things like that. That's damage tracking or heal tracking, or mat tracking is like, oh, well, they just ran out of wood because mid box they switched to brick. It's like stuff like that, where if they just switch from brick to metal, they're probably low on mats, or they're trying to hold their positioning and they don't really want to take that fight, or they're just trying to heal really fast, if that makes sense. So if you hit someone 120 damage, they are either going to be forced to heal or basically to die because you can just pressure. So that means you have like a 5 to 8 second window that you guys can have really good aggression. But that also means if that 5 to 8 second window closes and you're still fighting, you're putting yourself in a horrible position, because once again, third parties, you could get damaged again, and then you're the person that has that 5 to 8 second aggression window against them. And so it's just not very good. Another thing you guys need to focus on is reset timing awareness. So you need to know when to disengage instantly after damage. And that can either be damage against you or damage on someone else. If you get hit for like 60 to 100 damage, usually I would back off and try and get 1 mini off or some sort of heal. Because if you go and fight and you're at 140 to 160 health, the person could just full box you and literally hit you with a singular pump and you will die. So you guys want to be at a health where you guys are able to fight without being basically one pumped at any point in the match. So it's stuff like that, but it's also like if you only hit someone 40 and you know you're going to get third partied, or you see a third party, it's probably a better idea to back off, disengage, rotate out, reset, and then come back than it is to continue the fight even though you hit them 40. And that could even be if you hit someone 120, it still might be the better idea to rotate out and disengage than it is to take that fight, because you are possibly going to get third partied. And there are so many different situations. I can't cover all of them. I'm just covering the basics of them, but you guys can take these basics and basically apply them to your gameplay and figure out which works best for you. Okay, now we're going to go into some more of the defensive game sense type stuff. And I want to talk about like the don't be first target rule. And a lot of you guys are probably wondering what that is. Well, let's say you're boxed up. Don't be the first person to shoot. Like if you're in an end game, don't be the first person to shoot, dude. Unless you have a free angle on them. Because, well, if you open up and you shoot at someone, everyone else in the end game is going to know you shot, and they're probably going to either take out that duo or they're going to come after you because you have an edit open and your wall will be low when you reset. Next is don't be the first to rotate out in the open. I watched a pro team do this the other day, and they were never first to rotate, but they were also never last. So don't be first or last, be in the middle, because it makes you blend in more than it would if you were to go first or last. And then don't be the first person to take height, because once again, a lot of you guys take height way too early on in end games. In the sense of like a regular fight, taking height early on is okay, especially if you have a good amount of mats. But like in end game, don't take height in like the 7th zone. It's just, you're gonna run out of mats before you get into the 12th zone, and people will be able to take height if you can't constantly get refreshes. So just be super careful about that, because it is a super strong position, but it is also a very weak position if you cannot constantly keep height. So another thing you guys need to do is damage avoidance. Now, when I tell people what they need to fix in fights, I usually tell people the main goal of a fight is to kill the opponent without taking any damage or wasting as much of your stuff as possible. So the main goal of a fight is, once again, to edit out, full box them, for example, shoot them, don't let them hit you, once again, edit open and shoot them and kill them. You used barely any mats, you used 2 shotgun shots, and you didn't get hit at all. That would be the perfect ideal fight. Most fights will not be like that. You will get damaged and everything like that, but the main thing is you guys need to get the most amount of damage on your opponent without them hitting you, and you guys need to be able to basically finish fights fast enough to the point where you're not wasting all your loot, because if you do get third partied, once again, you're just cooked right off the start of that third party. Another thing you guys need to do is, like, for third parties, once again, is changing layers before the third party actually gets there. So example, if you're fighting on height, you're up here and you're like cranking and you're about to kill this kid that's up above, but you hear someone start shooting at you or the other opponent. The best idea would be to be able to drop down and like box up, because you will not be the one targeted. The person at the top that's healing will be the person that's targeted, and then you can once again reset and heal up and then re-engage if you need to. And then another thing which a lot of you zero build players have to use, I know this is not necessarily the best thing for zero build players because I do build a lot, if you guys can see, but using terrain before builds, and you have to use zero build for this. Now, I will always hate on zero build because it is not the real version of Fortnite, and I will forever stand by that. But I recently have been playing zero build because it is teaching me to, first of all, get better aim. It helps me a lot with my aim, recoil control, and stuff like that. But it also teaches me how to use terrain and scenarios of weakness. So, for example, once you run out of mats in a real game, your next best option is terrain. But if you even don't have to use your builds before you can get into a fight, if you can like sit on a rock and peek over it and get a lot of damage and then hide behind it, even if you do get damaged, that's a lot better than wasting a bunch of builds to do that same amount of thing. So I recommend actually playing zero build. Don't main it, but it's a good way to learn how to rotate better, get better positioning, hide behind terrain, use your terrain better, get better aim, all of those certain things. But once again, then you need to take that and apply it into your actual build games. And then another thing with that is on defense, sometimes the best defense is offense. And I talk about this in my other video as well. But if you're getting pushed and he's been shooting at you, trying to push you, pressure you on a wall, getting some damage on him in return is going to be the best defense. It just will be, because then it puts them on the defense and you on the offense. Another thing is you guys need to always have an escape route. Always. There's no reason you shouldn't have an escape route, whether that's either having a lot of builds, either being able to go through a porta potty, being able to go down or up a mountain, being able to hide in a cave, anything. That might even be like an area where you have 4 boxes just like this. If you're getting pressured heavily, you can just go into. So like, you need to have one safe exit route of any fight. You need to have one emergency drop route. So if your first place is contested and you want to go somewhere uncontested, you go somewhere else uncontested, one of the multiple drop spots that you should have. And then once again, one fight reset option, which is like the multiple boxes. And then on top of that, which we just talked about with all these boxes, is you need to have pre-box awareness. So you need to know when someone is about to jump in from the top of your box. So like just doing like this. When someone is looking at you for pre-fire, once again, doing this. Or when someone is baiting your edit. For example, I like to do this a lot where I like have my stare like this, and I'll just sit here with my shotgun out and I'll bait the edit and I'll jump up and then break their wall, and then once again just take it and shoot them. So you need to be aware of when people do that. But yeah, those are basically some of the more intricate things for game sense and awareness. They're more like specific, scenario specific, but I think you guys could utilize them in other ways. And if you are seeing this right now, comment fruit, so I know you've made it to the end of the video. And thank you guys for watching the whole thing, and I hope at least some of this breakdown will help you improve in ways you never thought you could. Thank you guys for taking lots of time out of your day to watch this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you need to, save this video to watch later and come back as a way to constantly improve in the game. Also, send it to a friend that you think needs it. But that's all for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you all. Peace, guys.